Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of season 7 of the Social Work Rants podcast. I'm your host, Bash Moreno. Saludos a todos. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast. I appreciate all the love and support. Gracias a todos por su apoyo. Keep rocking with the podcast. Follow the podcast on all social media outlets. At least I call it the old school social media outlets: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, X, whatever Elon wants to call it. By the time this episode airs, I was still on the platform. At Instagram, follow the podcast at the Social Work Rants Podcast. That's all one word. Follow the podcast on Twitter/X at Social Work Rants, or one word, and hit the like button. Hit the Social Work Rants podcast on Facebook, aka Meta. Of course, YouTube. Hit that red subscribe button. Hit the like on the videos. Watch them. We're trying to get this YouTube page popping, especially with the reduction of YouTube subscribers, so I get a couple coins on this platform. So, but seriously, thank you for rocking with the podcast. All about education and some entertainment, because we social workers do like to have our fun, and we have to, because we do a lot of great but serious work. So shout out to all the social workers, social work students, interns, and keep up the great work. Before I introduce my guest this week, I'll do the disclaimer. This podcast is meant to be used for educational and or entertainment purposes only. Is not meant to be a substitute for therapy. If you need to seek help, please call 988 or call 911. If you have a therapist, call your therapist, call their on call. If you have a psychiatrist, reach out to a psychiatrist, or call 911, go to your nearest emergency room. For all my out of the country viewers and listeners, so whatever your emergency contact is, like your country's version of 911, to use that, or go to hospital, get help is okay. For not to be okay, but definitely get the help that you need. My guest at this time, Malaria Green. Did I get the first name right? I know you said it before we.
It was almost okay. It's Malira. Yeah.
Malira, hi, how you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. How are you?
Good, good. I'm glad we able to connect, make this happen.
Yeah.
I'm excited. We got a lot going on, and we're here to talk about it. So,
Yeah.
let people know what you do in a wonderful field of social work.
Well, again, my name is Malira Green. I'm a licensed clinical social worker by trade. I fully function as a certified complex trauma professional. So my specialty is helping individuals thrive beyond their trauma. Now, I will say that I am a social worker that has figured out how to become a jack of all trades. Anywhere there's human beings, Malira is there. And I do that as a therapist, a life coach, a transformative speaker, Reiki master, healer, and servant if you meet me when I am in my spiritual mode. So that is a little bit about me right now in the field. A lot of what I focus on, like I've already said, I do therapy, so that's a big part of what I do. But I also have 13 supervisees that I am training up to be effective social workers in the field, and that is really where my heart is right now. So yeah, that's a little bit about what I'm doing in the field.
Well, how is that supervising all of that?
I absolutely love it. They probably laugh when they listen to this because I always say I'm only gonna do 5. Then I said I'm only gonna do 10, and now I'm at 13. But it is honestly an honor because I know what it feels like to have such a passion for people, but not having the right support to make sure that you are equipped to work fully functioning as a licensed professional. We don't do a great job in our field bridging the gap between getting your degree and actually providing service. So what I love doing is being able to marry the test with their supervision process, because it shouldn't be two different entities. Our test is all ethics, and if it's all ethics and we're supposed to be ethically sound, then our practice should reflect the test. So I teach a lot on that. Also, I like to join along their journey, and because I do so many different things in the field of social work, I also provide them with opportunities to get speaking engagements or come to workshops and conferences. So I'm really invested in those that I supervise, because I know what it feels like to have supervisors that invested in more than just me being licensed, but me as a person. So I replicate that with my supervisees as well.
Uh, I love that because I wish I had that opportunity. When I was in school, I really didn't. It's only been like the last few years that I've been even kind of like paid attention to conferences, or excuse me, or try to like present at conferences. And within like the last year, just over a year, been doing some speaking engagements. But yeah, like how is that process like for you getting the your interns involved in those conferences?
So a lot of it is just I tell them about what I'm doing. So a big part of what I do is I am a professional speaker. So I do travel around the United States and I speak on trauma, wellness, self-care, especially in the workplace. And one thing that I tell people is my supervisees are not here to build my business. So anything that they do come that I'm a part of, I do not charge them for whatsoever. So right now it's more of the exposure until they do get ready to speak. And when I do get the pleasure of being an adjunct professor, I'm going to allow them to have the opportunity to come and speak to my students in my class. We also practice doing presentations inside of our supervision when we do group supervision. Because another thing that lacks is once we graduate, very rarely do we actually conduct research. We might do like a continuing education and get more knowledge, but we stop researching once there's no more papers due. So I do get my supervisees to study modalities and diagnoses and present it to one another and have some case consultation and discussion to kind of expand their ability to present. And anytime someone do want to present something of interest, I create the space for that. So that's kind of what I've done is anytime a door opens for me, I'll let them know about the door and see who want to come and assist me. And then I also share opportunities as well. So if I know somebody is a good fit for something, like actually tonight after this, I have a Instagram podcast that I do, and one of my supervisees is presenting because I know like that's her specialty. So I just try to utilize my platform to expand their horizon as well.
I love that. That's a great experience, and just it helps if like if they want to like move forward on taking the licensing exam, that you have more kind of like a broad range of stuff that I mean suppose it's just a reading test, but still like just having that extra knowledge, whatever, just to kind of zoom in on the test and be more familiarized with whatever is going on with the examination. I really like that.
Thank you.
How did you get started with the speaking engagements? And you provide like any tips for newbies like myself that's still trying to get into
Yes.
the game?
Well, I actually started speaking in 2013, so it's been 10 years, and I actually stumbled into the speaking thing. I was a senior in college, and I used to be a mentor for our freshman bridge summer bridge program. And they happened to say, "Hey, Malara, you finished college in 3.5 years, and you came in a year early. So basically, you're graduating a year and a half early. So can you speak to our freshmen and tell them kind of how did you make it through?" And I said, okay. So I am thinking that I had like 2 minutes to just tell them how I, just went ahead and did everything and sit down. When I got there, my name was on the program as the keynote speaker.
Oh my
And
god!
I think I had like 20 minutes or something to speak. And I literally sat down, and in 5 minutes, I created a speech utilizing the acronym Spartan because I was at Norfolk State University. And I talked about the key principles to being a successful Spartan. And I remember finishing the speech, everybody was standing up clapping, but it was me looking out in the audience and seeing my brother so proud, telling all of his friends around him, "That's my sister." And I literally at that moment said, "I'm going to do this the rest of my life." Now, I wish that I was on that high this entire 10 years, but that's not really the truth. And from there, what I ended up doing was a lot of pro bono volunteer work for local nonprofits, churches, ministries, just different things that if it was something about mental health, I was doing it. If it was a podcast, I can show my expertise, I was doing it. And because of that, now that I'm full-time in my business, after being a business owner for 7 years, I now get to actually have people pay me to come and speak. And then I use this thing, it's called Innovative Women. I don't know one that's for male, so I'm so sorry, but I can look it up for you. But it's kind of like a speaker hub. So anytime there's a conference or somebody looking for speakers on this platform, it's $100 a year, and they have all the proposals that you need. And from there, I've gotten about 5 different speaking engagements. And
Oh,
from the
nice.
speaking engagements that I've done, now I have more speaking engagements that I'm doing. And actually just yesterday, I presented to the leadership at NASA here in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia. So it really started with me functioning in my purpose, that now that I do it as a business, I have done enough of the legwork for people to see me as an expert in the areas that I speak on. So now I do speak and I get paid for them. But that didn't start happening till about a year ago. Prior to that, everything that people saw me doing was just because I wanted to serve, get the information out there. So what I'll tell any person who is trying to start speaking, start with your heart first and the money will flow, because you have to make sure that people see you as an expert in whatever area you're presenting on. So when people think trauma, they think Malira. When they think self-love and confidence, they think me. When they think wellness, they think me. When they think spirituality mixed with mental health, they think me, because I put myself out there as this is my passion and I will do it if you don't pay me. That now, because they know it's not just only my passion, but my expertise, then they pay me to come out and speak now.
No, I love that. It's like, you know, follow your passion is almost like, I'm definitely, I got back into the church myself, thanks to my wife currently, when we were dating and going to church consistently. And like before that was like funeral services was the only time I was going to church. And I grew up going to Catholic church. And it was like I can't. It didn't resonate with me. So I just got older, became an adult. Like, I stopped going. But definitely like going into the church and just the pastor of the church I'm in just relates day-to-day stuff to the word, and like it just makes sense now. So it's like, following like the spirituality and like following like your passion and whatever, like just like it definitely will come.
Yeah.
Because I even like there's been a couple opportunities that I haven't completely listened to God, but he's telling me something, and it's like I'm still a little too hard headed to kind of listen, but like he's telling me something, so it's like, but it's coming. Like the wheel is in motion. So
Absolutely.
um, how how'd you get from getting your degree to now as a business owner? I have a lot of great peers in profession, you know, trying to either like their passion projects or like their side business, and some are trying to like their side business becoming the main business and leaving, the clinical work that they were doing. Like how was that transition for you?
It was a leap of faith. I look back and I can't believe it's been a year with me doing this full time on my
Mm,
own. But what I will tell anybody is what I have learned. Most social workers have a desire to do something on their own, whether it's a special project, whether it's an actual business. or anything like that, because a lot of the organizations that we work for is very structured in the sense of how we serve our clients. And it's great, but to a certain point.
Mm.
So about 7 years ago, when I had my daughter, that's when I started my business, and I started it just as a hobby. I became a life coach, and I said, you know what, I'm going to coach some people. And then that kind of morphed into, oh, well, let me create a coaching program. And then it's like, now I'm speaking. So it kind of took a whole thing. It took a life of its own. I did not see me doing what I do right now. But what I will say is eventually every organization that I work for, which I'm grateful for because I do have a lot of experience. My background is in foster care, corrections, dialysis, social work. I've done mentoring. I've done program management. I have done the therapy. I've done case management. I've done so many things in the field of social work. But the reason why I think I've been so successful, because I realized that these organizations was my rental car and my dream car was just being set up for me. What do I mean by that? Sometimes we get so bottled down by the organizations that we work for that it literally takes the life out of us.
Mm-hmm.
But when we realize that it's a rental car, the only thing I'm going to do to this rental car is put some gas in it. But if there's a flat tire, if the oil need to change, I'm taking it back and getting something new until my dream car is there. And with that mindset, I said, well, why I have to drive this rental car as I get my certifications, as I get my experience, my expertise, my competencies, I'm going to work on my passion project on the side. And from me working on it from the side time, I didn't need to worry about my business funding me financially. So then it helped me do the pro bono services and speaking on a volunteer capacity because I had something on my main that was covering. So what I would tell anybody, don't be afraid to let your dream start out as a hobby. I think sometimes we want it all right now.
Mm-hmm.
That it doesn't work that way. And honestly, it's never the right time to go into full-time business for yourself. Last year, the reason why I did become a full-time business owner is because I was met with the fact of my program was closing. And it was either go back to being what I would consider as lower level, where I had got to a actual program director position. I said it's either to go back to lower level where they're trying to find work for me to do, or take a risk on my own business. And that is what I did. I had no money in my savings. I had no type of contracts. I had no idea what it was going to look like. But I said the same way I take a risk on these organizations, the same way I present ideas to them, the same way I try to make sure that their program is done well, I can do the same for myself. And that's kind of what my journey was. My hobby turned into my dream job. I literally live out my dream every day. One day I can be a clinical supervisor. The next day I'm doing therapy. The next day I am a life coach. And then on Thursdays, I do a relationship thing on the Michael Collier show, who's a well-known comedian. Like I
Oh
literally
wow.
am out my dream only because I took that leap of faith and started to take a bet on me. So what I will tell anybody who is thinking about jumping, start with it being a hobby first. Do it from a passion where you don't have to have a scarcity mindset. And when it's time for you to take that leap of faith, you will feel it and take it. And I can't promise you it's going to be easy, but I can tell you it's worth it. I will not trade my journey in for the world.
Well, that's amazing and beautiful. And Michael Collar is he's hilarious. So I know who that is.
Yes.
He's definitely like how did that come about?
So I am that person that's not afraid to slide in celebrities' DMs to say thank you for like what you're doing. And honestly, it's from a sincere place. It's very weird because every time I tell the story, they're like, oh, he responded back. But he has a morning show that he brings what I would call regular superheroes on every weekday. And every time I saw his show, it was people from my local area. And I was just like, wow, this guy of such a huge magnitude is bringing people that I just went out to lunch with on his show. I just have to simply tell him thank you. And that's literally how it started. I reached out to him. I said, hey, you might not never see this, but I just want to say thank you for utilizing your platform for regular people like me to share their gifts. And he responded back and he said, well, what do you do? So I sent him my generic bio of me being a therapist and a coach. He said, well, can you come on this week? And I was like, yeah, I can come on this week. And we have literally just celebrated our year of friendship. I am his life coach and friend.
Oh, nice.
So that's kind of how it started. It started with me sliding in weirdly like I do, but from a genuine place of literally
Mhm.
saying thank you. And now I am a permanent fixture on his show every week, and we're friends. And I'm going to his wedding if he listens to this. Congrats again. Him and Sonia's getting married in November. But that's literally how I made that connection with him, is just reaching out and genuinely sharing, like, thank you.
That's something. I mean, that's how I've gotten a few guests that's been on the podcast. Like my writing coach that helped me finish my poetry book that's published. Trying through pain, how to maximize your full potential in hard times is out. Is on Amazon. Go get it. And thank you for those who purchased it. But yet even during COVID, I was like sliding in DMs, whatever, and I've been following his work for a long time. He's originally from New York, and he was like, "Hey, like we all got the COVID, the stimulus checks." And it was like, "Hey, like I just started a podcast. I wanted to do a podcast episode about what's the social workers do with their stimulus money? Should they be paying their student loans or just hold on to the money or start a business or do whatever?" And he gladly came on the podcast like nothing. So that stuff does happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Awesome.
and 2 years later, he helped me publish my book. So like with his coaching program. So yeah, that stuff does happen, and LinkedIn is a great source too. Like with the messaging and going back and forth. That's how I got other people to come on the podcast and met other social workers and just going back and forth or just put it out there like, hey, I'm looking for social workers to interview, and like people came on. So now I noticed I haven't seen it recently, but I know for a while there was this whole thing about life coaches and like they getting bashed on social media, or like what is a life coach, what is all this stuff like. how, Part of what you do is that like how did you like navigate, or did you just not bother with the noise?
So I am someone that don't like conflict. I know that conflict is everywhere, but I try my best to eliminate those things that are not in my control. So me functioning in both roles as a therapist and a life coach, the easiest way that I can put it, I'm currently going through a program called the Dream Releasers coaching program. And they say that therapy is for people who are sick, meaning that people that really struggle with their mental health issues and they're serving as a barrier to their daily functioning. Those are individuals who need a therapist, because the therapist is going to serve as the expert. The therapist is going to be the person that gives you the prescription to heal whatever problem that you have. Where life coaching is for individuals who are healed, they just keep hitting the same brick wall and they need somebody to coach them through how to get over it. But they are the expert of their life. They just need to have someone ask them powerful questions to pull what is within to come without. So when I do my life coaching, and because I am both, I created my 8-week coaching program called the Metamorphosis Healing Experience. And the reason why I did that, because some people don't know if they are still unhealed or if they're healed. So I did this 8-week program. So at the end of it, you know whether you need to sit with a therapist or you need to sit as a coach. So that's how I've been able to distinguish the two. Another thing that I am really big on is, because I do know a lot of people, because I've just mentored and did certain things. If I know you, I automatically switch you to life coaching.
Mm.
So if you are not healed enough, then I'm going to refer you out to another therapist. That's my rule of thumb. I try to follow our code of ethics that say we can't have any dual relationships. So if it's someone who I know or we've had any type of relationship, so that helps me keep it very similar. If I don't know you and we do a consultation, I assess what it is that you need. Like, are you bleeding on other people? Are you someone that have on a superhero cape, but the red cape is your blood because you haven't healed yet? Or are you someone who has healed, done everything that you need, but now you're stuck in your business, you're stuck in your marriage, you're stuck in decision making? So I try to break down for people which one is going to be the best option, because once you choose one, I do not interchange them. So if you start as a therapy client, you cannot be one of my coaching clients. And if you
Mm.
start as my coaching client, you cannot be one of my therapy clients. And the only time that I will kind of have something dual is when I do my wellness side. So I am a Reiki master, which is healing through hand placements. It is more an Asian culture, but for me, I believe in God. So I've created it where it's more Holy Spirit led. And I believe the same way Jesus touched the people and healed them, that's how
Mm.
I see it. So that's the only service that I will let people kind of go in and out, because that's more spiritual and soul, but I don't promote that unless people know. So that's how I kind of separate the two. If you are healed, you can get you a life coach and have someone pull out your own expertise of your life. If you are not healed and you are struggling with your trauma reminders, your triggers, if you are bleeding on people, if you are having outbursts and emotionally you're not okay, then you need a therapist. So I help people understand that through my program, and then I refer them out if necessary.
Are you looking for people for that program, or how does that work?
Yeah, so to answer that question, I was, and now I'm kind of full to capacity. But what I am doing is creating an online version of it so people can have it self-paced, but everything still
Mm.
comes to me. So you still get that interaction. We'll still be meeting once a month. It just won't be hands-on. Now I do have a couple open slots. It's not a lot, it's about 3 of them. So if people do want to go through that program, I will be honored to do it. And it's best as a group. What I tell people is it's great to do one-on-one work when it comes to coaching, but it's something powerful about having other people around you to normalize
Yeah.
what you are experiencing. So I like to encourage people, get your best girlfriends, the people that you're talking to all day, and it seems like y'all having the same conversation. All y'all come together the same time each week, and we will walk you through this program. So that is where I currently am right now, trying to shift it more to being in a virtual space, because my time is limited with everything that I have, but I do try to offer it the best that I can. And I am trying to switch more to the corporate space, because I believe that leaders need healing in order to heal the workplace. So I
Absolutely.
am looking for organizations to go in and do this program with their leaders to see if we can help with the turnover rate, help with recidivism, help with the morale inside of organizations, especially mental health. Most
Mm.
mental health people don't leave because they hate the job. They leave because the leadership is poor.
Mm.
So
Yes.
right now I'm trying to shift more to the organization side, because I feel like I can impact way more people doing it organization based than doing it one-on-one. But the program is available for people now.
No, that is so true about people leave, especially like nonprofits and stuff like that, because of the leadership, or just like if you pay attention, like I always mention, like follow the money. And sometimes you will have an organization that will be truthful to you and let you know what is happening with the money, and now you got to make a decision whether you're gonna go down with the ship, or you got to make a move and find something else. So uh definitely always try to follow the money. I'll always, well, I've gone to interviews, I ask about funding sources, like how do you guys get your funding source, because obviously your funding source is going to be paying part of my salary, if not all of my salary. So it's like, it's important to find out, because obviously we going through a recession now, inflation, and people and organizations are just now seeing like the after effects of COVID, and who knows how long that's going to take. So we just now seeing the aftermath of it. So organizations are struggling. And it doesn't matter what type of organization it is, and just individuals are struggling. So I like that you try to focus organizations. Because so like I've been in jobs, is looking at my supervisor, try to avoid my supervisor like the plague. Like so, it's like doing like MacGyver moves or 007 moves, just avoiding like having supervision. So
Yeah,
so it does happen. So that's definitely important. And even if you see like hiring, the way people hire employees, and it's like this doesn't make any sense. Like what what is going on? And it's like, okay, maybe it's like the companies will put the writing on the wall for you if you like, open your eyes and open your ears. You don't even have to say anything. Just like kind of like pay attention to what's going on, and do what you need, whatever's best, for you. So
yeah,
um now what now you said you're in Virginia, correct?
yeah.
Yes. So from where you at, what are you seeing, like, day to day, like kind of like your social work lens on, and kind of what are you seeing, like in your surrounding area, like impact, like relate, especially like I just mentioned about like post COVID era, what are you seeing, what do you see people are struggling with?
So in my area, honestly, the best I can put it, because I'm in the Hampton Roads area where the first slaves landed here in the United States,
Mm,
we're still stuck in a post-slavery area. And it's very sad because you can feel it when you're here. But it's one of those things where out of mind, like out of sight, out of mind.
yeah.
And because of it's out of sight, out of mind, I live in a predominantly military town. Here in Hampton Roads, we have every single military base that you can think of, and then joint force bases as well.
Mm,
And because of that, we believe that we're like this melting pot of society and everybody gets along and diversity, inclusion, and equity, and we're just all great, and we're not. We're just not. Our resources are very limited. Here we can go 5 minutes down the road and you can be in a very rural area, and then the next second you're in a suburb, and then the other second you are in a impoverished area. So we are very intertwined here where I am. And because of that, we ignore the writing on the wall. Here it's either TRICARE, as far as our predominant insurance company, but even with that, they're limited with certain services that they have because their children don't have the same access as those who are in impoverished areas that can get the Medicaid, that pays for intensive in-home and mental health skill building and things like that. So we see that there's a disconnect in services. If you are someone who get insurance from the state, you have way more resources than
mm.
someone who has a commercial insurance. So
Wow.
I have seen is, although I know those of low impoverished areas do need our assistance and support, it is so saturated of the amount of services that's provided to that space that those who are middle and upper class, they don't get the same services as those who are not. So what I will say is in this area, we are trying to be a little more creative. So we have some school systems, like right now, I'm a behavioral health support person at Norfolk Public Schools, where they brought therapists into the school to provide therapy to any student that was a part of their behavioral intervention program. So whether you had insurance or not, they didn't care as long as you was a part of the specialty program. And I was able to sit with those students for about 5 hours a week to provide some level of support. So we are trying to meet people where they are, but there is definitely still a disconnect. Also, we're kind of like a dying town. Like we have so many apartment buildings that are going up. So people are moving here, but the activities for our youth to do are dying. So our skating rings are far in between. The movie theater now has different rules and regulations. The malls, you got to be with an adult. Like it's so many different rules that our youth have nothing to do. So then they get in trouble no matter what socioeconomic status that they have. And then you put on top of it the fact that they're middle and upper class families. those middle and upper class parents got to work to keep middle and upper class status. So then you have those young people just trying to find their way, and then they find themselves in the midst of the wrong crowd. And what I tell people a lot of the times is not the fact that the timing is wrong, it's the wrong thing at the right time that normally finds our youth and children. So we have quite a few different nonprofits. We have Vision Driven 757, they're in the area. We have Stop the Violence 757, they're in the area. And we have so many people that are trying to make a difference, but the Hampton Roads area need more funding when it comes to the social work realm, because our organizations are dying. People are like me now. I have so many of my friends that jumped into entrepreneurship. So the clinicians aren't going to the community services boards. They aren't going to the nonprofits. They're going into their own business because we see all of the red tape it takes to just help people. So you have organizations that are dying, which mean the clients aren't giving service. It's a whole lot. But I will say though, no matter where we are, there are some trailblazers in this area that is doing everything that we can, boots to the ground, to provide the services that our young people and our families need today. And I know I advocate for people to use our community services resources. I'm really big on doing 988 and helping people call and do their assessments. So there's some great people out here, but we are beyond post-COVID. We're still in slavery mode, which has created competition, comparison, and everything else, which is a whole nother conversation for another day.
Well, you said something that's striking, that people with, if I heard it correctly, people with Medicaid or can get better access than people with commercial insurance.
Absolutely. I literally just had a conversation with a dentist. It wasn't even about mental health. But she was asking me like, hey, what do you do? I said, hey, well, I kind of travel and speak and I do certain things and I'm a social worker. She said, oh, great. And she was telling me how those individuals that even just come see her, when they have Medicaid, they get a slew of just support and things like that. And she's like, when she volunteers on the weekend, she's able to see the kiddos that have Medicaid and clean their teeth and make sure they're good. But the kiddos who have commercial insurance, they have to turn away, or the adults that have it, they got to turn away, because the actual stipulation of the programs that they have is for specific individuals. That's even like when we have our like therapeutic day treatment programs in the school that is meant to help with the kids' behaviors. Those students have to have Medicaid in order for the insurance to pay for it. Or you got to pay out of pocket for the hour, which is a lot of money that most parents don't have. So when you have these different resources at times, and what I tell people is it's not about using the system, but I even do have conversations with my clients who have Medicaid and say, you don't have an excuse. Here is your resources that you have, and we can link you to those resources. So it's just about people being educated to what they have access to. And those individuals that don't have insurance and they're trying to figure out, like, where do I go now? I always tell them it's nothing but to call Cover Virginia and tell them your situation and circumstance. And on the phone, they will literally fill out the application for you to give you the help that you need. And if you do have commercial insurance, depending on what you have, if you are a student, and when I say student, I mean like college student and beyond, a lot of the universities have connected with what's called Timely, which is a free counseling service that, as long as you have your school email address, you can go up there and use it, so you don't have to worry about using your insurance. And you can have as many sessions throughout the day, 24/7, that you want on that service. Most schools have a free counseling service as well for the universities, where you can go and seek a counselor where it is confidential. And then sometimes start at your community services boards. They are a one-stop shop. They have what's called same-day access. You'll do a full, complete biopsychosocial, and they will see, well, what resources do I have to offer you? So there are options for those who do have commercial insurance, but sometimes it's a little bit more limited than those individuals who have Medicaid, because the government specialty programs are specific to those who hold that type of insurance, and it's not open to everybody.
Right. Yeah, that part relates to mental health and the commercial insurance. That part I could kind of get, especially the reimbursement rates to provide treatment is so terrible. There's red tape that goes into that. That part I get, but somebody like a dentist, charging Medicaid and providing the service compared to
So you
commercial
So you got
insurance.
to think about it. So it's just like kind of with mental health, how when we create our policies and programming, that programming is going to specifically say, who can I serve?
Mm,
So for those who are volunteering in the community, they're serving a certain type of population of people. So if they don't have this form of insurance, or if they don't fall under a certain age, so like people who are under 12, they can get whatever they want. But if you're over 12 years old and you don't have a certain set of insurance, they cannot legally service you because it's not a part of whatever the program that they're
yeah,
doing. Every
gotcha.
program is not the same, but we do have to understand that it's not that we don't want to help, but there are some programming policy wise that limits mental health professionals, medical professionals from really providing some people with the services that they deserve.
Mm, fascinating. It's fascinating how things work in different states and which makes things like if you move from one state to another, like things that you could get or can't get because of the states or even towns within the same state is really fascinating to say the least.
Absolutely.
um, so other than your coaching pro, I mean, like mentioned before, you got a lot going on. What's next up for you?
Well, what is next up for me is I am going to finish this PhD program in organizational leadership at Regent
You doing a
University.
PhD too?
I am 68% done. So if I don't finish this, I'll be a little crazy because I'm already halfway over the hump. So that is what is next for me, because again, I do want to go into organizations and I want to shift how we view mental health and how we view creating a healthy workplace for people to actually thrive. Because people always ask, why didn't you do social work, or why didn't you do like psychology? And I said, because like I feel like I've been able to get to a certain level of competency is now me being able to learn the language to go into these businesses so that people can stay on the job. People
Mm,
want to retire. We do, like, as much as people say our generation, at least my generation, they say, well, y'all don't stay on jobs long. It's not because we don't want to, we can't because of what's going on with the organization. So that is what's next for me, going more into the corporate space, doing more of my conversations about self-love as the key to inclusion, um, speaking over the world. That is literally my dream. And just keep living, man. Like, social work is so endless. And people ask, like, how did you get into this side of social work? I just dreamed and I started living it. That's really what I've done. So if I can continue to live this thing out loud and serve in all the different capacities and roles that I have, I will be good. So that's what's next for me on the horizon.
I love it. So how I know self care is like this huge buzzword and I know my initial business was initially regarding self care and doing a whole pivot. But like, how do you like with everything you got going on? How do you take time out or like okay, I'm not doing any work? Like what are you doing to take care of yourself from?
So I am a liver of life. And I didn't even share with you, and not even in like in a braggish way, but I only shared like half of what I do. I'm also a mother of two young children. They're 4 and 7. I'm married. Not only am I getting my PhD, but I'm getting an undergrad coaching certificate right now at a whole nother university. I have two part-time jobs working for private practices. So like I have a lot that I have on my plate, but the way that I take care of myself is I realize I get the same 24 as everybody else, and I am intentional about taking a step back. So on my calendar, I have at least 1 hour each day where Malira is not doing anything. It says literally on it, self-care, do nothing. So I don't care if I have an assignment due. I don't care if I have something for my business that's due. In that hour, I'm not doing anything. I also love dancing. So if people ever follow Malira Transforms on TikTok, you will see me dancing. I love comedy. So I go to the comedy shows on a daily basis. I take time for my children. I tell the story all the time. I'm 2 years into my PhD program, and my daughter had no idea that I was in school until a month ago. When I told her, hey, mommy has to do some homework. And she said, homework? I was like, yeah. So for me, it's just finding the balance and prioritizing what's important in that moment that lets me take care of myself. And when I do need to pivot and take a step back, I'm not afraid to say, hey, this assignment is going to be late. And as long as I pass the class, I'll pass the class. Or not today, I need to reschedule, or I don't have it today. I am unashamed about taking care of myself, because I can't tell my clients or my supervisees to take care of themselves if I'm not practicing that. So I take my holidays, I take my kids' days off from school, I take their spring break. Like, I have learned to make the thing that's important in the moment, and then the rest of it kind of fall in line together.
I like that. That's definitely important, especially if you got kids, and it goes by so fast. I got 14-year-old and 11-year-old, and it seems like yesterday, like each of them were born, and like staring at babies right in their eyes, like, oh snap. And so it really does go by uh so fast. Where can people find you?
So you guys can find me at www.malaratransforms.com. That is my website. That's going to have what I do, who I am. I am currently updating it so you guys can know the keynote things that I can offer and provide, especially coming into organizations. I'm Malara Transforms on Instagram. I'm Malara Green on Facebook, which is my happy place. I do kind of have an old soul, so I like to be on Facebook. And then I do have a TikTok, which is Malara Transforms. And I also love to tell people, if anything that I said during this time resonated with you, or you feel like you need help, I always share my business line just so that you don't have to navigate these spaces by yourself, which is 757-609-0694. Again, that's 757-609-0694. If you text it, call it, it comes directly to me. So I like to be that person, not just give you some resources or a bunch of words and then you don't have anywhere to go. So please, if you are struggling, or if you're like, hey, what was that resource that you talked about? Or hey, I want to discuss ways to do whatever, that is the number to reach out to me at.
Oh, awesome. Keep up the great work. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.